you grew up as a kid in New Jersey, and you didn't have a TV in your room.
No.
I get the sense that that radio that you had was really your foray into radio.
Radio and cassette recorder. I used to play the roving reporter, and I would interview my little brother, Tommy. He's 3 years younger than me, about anything. So, what'd you have for dinner? Did you like it? What did you do? And then I would play back and listen to myself. I didn't have a TV in my room because I grew up in the 70s. I am 48 years old. I'll be 49 in July. And I come from a solid middle class background, but I had a clock radio and I had 2 transistor radios that operate off batteries, and I set them up in the corners of my room. We all had our own bedrooms, so it was my haven, my clubhouse. And I just loved radio. The people who did it, Harry Harrison, Dan Ingram, Cleo, yes, Frankie Crocker, Al Bandero, they all sounded like they had such cool, fabulous lives. They talk about the parties they were going to, and Donna Summers is coming to town, and they'd be at this restaurant and that restaurant. I said, I want to be cool too. So I knew that when I grew up, I wanted to be either a newscaster like Vic Miles or Sue Simmons.
Okay, yeah, prominent local people.
That's what I'm saying. Chuck Scarborough. Or I wanted to be a radio broadcaster. There were no women that I could compare what I wanted to be to at that time, because women were soft demeanors. They did overnights. They did The Quiet Storm and shows like this. And my personality definitely isn't this. You know, I am a full-bodied personality, and there were no women leading the charge in radio at the time. A woman was already always a sidekick to a man. And I'm a lot of things, but I don't play good sidekick. I don't.
But so you knew that you had this desire to be in radio.
Yeah.
And after college, you went straight to the Virgin Islands. How did that
Yes.
job start? How did you get that job?
So, you know, I went to Northeastern. My parents told me that I had exactly 4 years. It's a 5-year school. I did not do co-op. I hustled up my own internships and things like that. So I told my parents I'll be out in 4 years. They said, okay, because we don't have a dime more. I got my own job. I found it in the back of a radio trade magazine. I applied to several places, and there was nobody to help me. I don't come from people who know anything about media. And I got it at WVIS, FM 106 in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. I got the job sight unseen. My acceptance letter had more misspelled words than a first grader in a 6th grade spelling bee. I never showed the letter to my parents because they would have definitely told me, do not take the job. Who are these idiots?
Because they were thinking you should get a job in New York or New Jersey.
They were thinking that I should get a job somewhere in the mainland, first of all, and that my boss should at least know how to conjugate verbs without dangling participles and ending sentences with prepositions. Oh, by the way, with no punctuations. But I took the job, and I went. And I was there for about maybe 6 or 8 months.
That's all it took, and then you jumped to...
Well, while I was in the Virgin Islands, at that time, minimum wage was $3.75 an hour, and I was very poor, but I was happy. I've never been motivated by money, even though I didn't come from money. I'm motivated by quality of life. So I was there for 6 or 8 months, and I knew that I wasn't going to leave the island until I had another job. But while I was in the Virgin Islands, a brand new radio station opened up in New York, Hot 103.9. And the program director, a man by the name of Joel Salkowitz, his information was in the trade magazines. But this is before internet and everything. And so I'd take all the trade magazines home, and I would look in the back, and I see this brand new station. They were looking for jocks, and I called up and sent my resume, and Joel called me back, and we had quite a nice conversation that I think most people don't even have the time, most bosses don't even have the time for now. And he said, well, you're not quite ready yet, but you stay in touch with me. I got a job from Kathy Hughes at WOL. She now heads up
TV One.
TV One. Miss Hughes at that time was the morning personality at her very own radio station, her first one, WOL in Washington, D.C. It was located at 4th and H in the hood.
Right.
And I did afternoons. And Miss Hughes, I was an observer from afar of all that is fabulous between Miss Hughes and her son Alfred and how they ran the radio station and did things. Now, I didn't want to be a radio station runner. I wanted to be a great personality.
Right. And I asked a question about your beginning of your career because I always ask people, how long did it take you to become an overnight success?
Years.
Because a lot of people don't realize what it takes and that you actually had a plan, a blueprint, and a trajectory to success.
Lee, it also depends on what you consider success. Because, you know, for me, I can remember, if I just made $50,000, and then shortly after that, if I just made $100,000. So it was measured not just by quality of life, because the caveat is I want to make it on the radio.
Right.
I don't want to make it.
You want to be on the radio.
And making the money. That stuff happened pretty quick. I mean, it was grueling, but I landed my job. Joel ended up hiring me. I worked for Miss Hughes for about 8 months, and I got a weekend gig in New York. So I would do weekdays at WOL in Washington and drive up on Fridays after my shift, which would end at 7 o'clock. And I'd be on all weekend long over in Queens. That's where the radio station was located. And then I would drive back to DC. And I would never even stop at my parents' house. Never had time for friends because everybody was kind of not understanding my dream and kind of laughing at me or something, or trying to, you know, my friends were like real immature and stupid and wanting to party and hang out, and I'm on a path, and my parents were very, you know, oh, do you want something to eat? What is this crazy thing you're doing called radio? I would sleep in my Subaru. They gave me a Subaru for college graduation. And I would sleep in my car at every rest stop between New York and Washington, D.C. to block out the noise of people
telling you can't do it.
Right. I would literally I'd have a blanket, an alarm clock, and a quilt. And I would take a bird bath in the bathroom. I'd be woken up by the man sweeping next to my Subaru looking at me because I'm like the crazy, you know, girl and I had a baby shade without a baby. Pull the baby shade down, you know? And that was my life. For about 2 months I was going back and forth. When I finally went to Miss Hughes to give my 2-week notice, her program director at that time, a woman by the name of Wendy Williams, fired me. So the learning lesson from that was 2-week notices are dicey, because here I was a young girl, I was 21 years old, or 22 at that point, only 1 year out of school, and all this stuff was happening for me. I thought I was doing something well. I'll never forget it. She fired me, and Miss Hughes co-signed on it. And I cried like a baby because I felt like, yeah, I'm on my way to my dream career, pretty much at lightning speed in New York at this station. But I just had my back kicked in because I did what I thought was the right thing, which was give a 2-week notice. You know,
It's a cutthroat business.
and you want to know what? That it was a huge lesson. Anyway, radio ended up turning out to be New York radio, my home. And
you became fabulous.
yeah. Oh, thank you. I want to be one of the executive producers because I no longer want to be on TV at all costs. I want to be on TV on my terms. Now is the right time for the Ask Wendy book. So I ask my Wendy watchers through social media and also, you know, on the show, to write me a letter, send me a telegram, throw me an email, give me your toughest, most personal questions, whatever they are.